My name is Teresa Walsh. I graduated in 2002, one of the immortal 8 first students.
Where are the other 7?
One of them's coming tomorrow. I graduated in 2002. One of the discoveries that I had while I was here was that I enjoyed performing, and I did it well enough to do so in public. I wrote and performed a one-woman show called Body Revolution. I produced it for a 3-week weekend run some time ago, and then I was invited by the Marsh Theater to do a Monday night thing they have. And I'm working on 2 projects right now. One is a sort of faction about the 3 years I was a medical patient in Cuba, and the second is a multitude poem called Litany for Taxation, and anybody who wants to know about it can talk to me about it later. The piece that I'm going to read, I took out the middle to keep this short, and it's from the first project, the project having to do with the 3 years I was a medical patient in Cuba. First, it was the chícharos. Grace had been eating potaje de chícharos, stewed garbanzos, as many as 5 times a week since she'd arrived in Cuba. The 7 months she was inpatient at Julito Diaz, chícharos were often served at lunch and then again at dinner. And although they were usually the best of a bad meal, Julio Diaz Hospital definitely couldn't boast about its cooking. Well, let's just say anyone, even Grace, who was patient and tolerant when it came to food, she would say, being cooked for and getting it free, even she got sick of eating the same thing 10 times a week. Here at the Hotelito, the little hotel, where the cooking is infinitely more appetizing, chícharos appear on the menu several times a week. So it is an unsuspecting Grace that rolls up to lunch, talks with Negui about this and that while the Cuban woman ladles the chícharos. Then she sits alone, looking out the dining room doors for several minutes, fiddling with the spoon, absently noticing Rosita skipping some sing-song game under the flamboyant, wondering whether Jaime and Vilma are about, remembering Roberto singing in the car that morning. But then she slowly, ever so slowly, realizes that something is tugging at her consciousness. She considers. Then she registers an aroma wafting up from her plate, the penetration of garlic, the sweet saltiness of tomato, the pungency of ají, the stubborn complacence of squash, and suddenly juices fill her mouth. She looks down puzzled. The garbanzos float in the usual broth, thickened with strings of spaghetti, slightly colored by the chunks of squash and green pepper. And then she looks again, and this time, somehow the broth is glinting at her, hot and inviting. The spaghettis are holding their shapes, and she follows their strange S's for several baffled moments until she notices that she is staring at the squash, which stands up to her scrutiny, and the green pepper, which does not wilt. She lifts the spoon and eats. The stew glistens on her lips. The garbanzos, cooked perfectly, satisfy her teeth. The salty garlic swims at the back of her tongue. Her breathing increases. She begins to sweat. When her spoon scrapes the plate, she is bereft. Skipping to the last part. Finally, the sun. One of those January Havana days when the sun quivers on the wind, the tangs of shadows rustling into sun and back again. Her hands reach absently for the wheels of her purple chair and push out of the dining room doors, her bare arms one long fluid motion, into a world fluttering with light. She sweeps across the patio slowing to take the short ramp, then reaching back and pushing while turning effortlessly onto the path, skates halfway to her room on the strength of one push. She reaches her hands back again, which puts her collarbone directly into the path of a steady sun, and the young man sitting on the patio, his long legs spread wide apart, having followed her absent liquid progress with a speculative "Allah," sees her slow, then stop, sees her arms dangle behind the wheels, watches as her head and chest move slowly up and back until, from his perspective, she is one long supplication, and she feels something on the skin stretching across the bird-wing bones that frame the delicate indenture at the bottom of her neck, feels something inside her skin, inside the fragrant corners of those bones. She considers. It is, she realizes, heat. A fine, insistent heat pulsing steadily all the way into her bones. She lifts her face, stretches her neck, her shoulders up and back, and then she feels the sun everywhere, pooling in the center of her forehead, on her closed eyelids, on the thrust of her bottom lip, on the curl of her ear, on those bones, and jumping the small patio wall, 2 long steps finds him standing over her, and he is talking, saying anything. Nestor Ulloa, mi nombre es Nestor, y te vi, and he is looking down into blue-gray eyes in which he sees panic, then a gathering storm, and she sees a mustache, scrambles to sit upright. He is talking. Nestor Ulloa, my name is Nestor. But she is wondering why he is leaning over her chair, why she has to crane her neck, why is he so close, why is he still talking, why is she trembling? And she takes the wheels, mutters something, and pushes past him, and he stands looking after her, and she dreams that night, restless dreams of the sun's insistent rays coming like a barrage of arrows, piercing skin, jutting into bone.